I'll kick things off so we don't run out of time too much, but people are still coming in. That screen's sharing okay now. So yeah, welcome.
Yeah, looks good, Ben.
Yep. Yeah, welcome to our third quarter session. Seems like it was quite a while ago since our last one, to be honest. But yeah, pleased to announce we got two great speakers today, and also Megan, who's joined us as well, who's going to share some really exciting sort of news around XCon and also how we can attend that upcoming conference. So yeah, just a few housekeeping things first. We are going to be recording this session, and just ask everyone to mute themselves as they come in. We'll try and keep on top of that as well. But yeah, obviously keep it all above board with any of the chat and all of that throughout the session. And yeah, feel free to ask questions during the session in the chat, and we'll try and moderate that and feed through to the speakers, and yeah, make it as interactive as possible. So yeah, just a bit of an agenda today. We'll run through just a bit of background about us and what we're trying to achieve with this bug. And the two key speakers today we've got is Tim from Great Buxton, which is really exciting for me to see. We haven't really had someone from an architectural background before, so really keen on seeing that side of Bluebeam use here in Melbourne. And then also Brett from Advanced Precast. I'm really interested to see what he's able to share with us here. I understand they're using a lot of the features of Bluebeam around a costing workflow, so really keen on that one. And as I mentioned, also Megan's going to share some great and exciting stuff around XCon. So MelBUG itself is basically just a group of users who are championing the use of Bluebeam. We're Melbourne based, but through this pandemic, we've really been able to scale up our reach, and we've had a lot of global speakers, and I think that's really, you know, made a difference. And we're seeing a lot of regional people dialing in to these meetings as well. So we're really keen to see that keep progressing. We've got a good turnout, a good response again today, and we're also recording these sessions and getting some great hits on the YouTube recordings as well. It is a group of people that just contribute this to promote it and help the industry. So we really look to people to put themselves forward to speak at the event, and also if you want to get more involved in helping us organise, we're always open to talk about that. There is a number of groups around the world, and I think through this period it's been a little bit easy to access that as well. So definitely check out that YouTube channel, and particularly some of the stuff coming out of Sydney. As we know, they've been doing this longer than us and have still got some great stuff coming out there. But then also the other global bugs, London, have been releasing some great stuff as well. And I do understand we're going to potentially have a New Zealand bug starting up sometime soon. I'm not sure if that's been announced yet, but there is something in the making there as well. So just myself, I'll be chairing it today. I'm the chairperson of the bug from ACOM, but you don't need to know too much about me. And the other two key people that we've got at the moment is Lachlan, who I work with pretty closely, and Shanok, who's now working at Bluebeam as well. And really our job is to, work with you and understand what you need from these sessions, and, particularly trying to, get content for the next sessions. So reach out if you are interested. And we do have room for more people to get involved if that's something that interests you. It's a great opportunity just to network with different people and contribute something back to the industry. So yeah, we'll jump straight into the content, and I'll hand it over to Tim, who's going to share some workflows from an architectural practice. Over to you, Tim.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invite to talk about the Bluebeam workflows that we use here at Great Buxton. Hopefully people get something out of it. I do an induction sort of monthly with new staff members and a refresh for our existing members, and usually people get some valuable workflows and some efficiencies from it. So I'll just share my screen. Just let me know if everyone can see that okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah, no worries, Tim. That looks good.
Okay, so the main element that we'll talk about today is really sort of our customization of our tool chest. So it's been quite valuable for people to mark up using our consistent Gray-Paxson standards. I'll go through a little example of that. So here we might have a particular drawing that's gone out and a project leader may want to sort of mark this up electronically. The ability to mark it up electronically means people can be more agile and a bit more collaborative as well. And also means that people don't need as much paper to be printed, which is better for the environment too. We have a series of markup tools that we've sort of created around text styles and symbols as well. So every symbol that we've created in Revit has an element in Bluebeam as well. So someone can quickly just drag on and drop it. So if a finish isn't quite correct, they can drag it on and mark up the finish that they want it to be. So these are all interactive as well. And so in relation to that, if you've got a markup tool that you're using quite a bit, there's a couple of ways you can sort of reuse that. So the reuse markup tool down here is quite a handy way to reuse a markup, and it just quickly holds and allows you to move markups around quite easily and repeat them. And you've also got an option up here of adding something to the tool chest. So if you right click on an element and add to the tool chest, you can add that to My Tools. And once you add that to My Tools, it gives you a little number keystroke. So on the keyboard, if you just keep repeating 7, that'll allow you to reuse that markup. We've got a series of options here around text styles, line styles, and symbols. These are all red markups. So a red markup is something that definitely goes on to a drawing in the document and needs to complete it. These ones here around comments are blue. So a blue is more a direction. So in the past, if everything's been marked up in red, sometimes a direction can end up on a drawing. So we've created that workflow of if a text style is blue, then it won't go on the drawing. It's more a direction. And then we've got annotation tools where symbols and things are in black as well. We've also created elements around doors, so you can grab doors and just drag doors on here. We've got a masking element to that door, and then you can sort of flip those doors as well and just resize them. So someone like a project leader who's quickly wanting to just mark up maybe a double door in this location allows them to quickly put a door in that location for a markup. We've also got a lot of things around elevation tags as well. So if someone wants a direction for an elevation tag to be in a certain location, they can show those elevation tags as well. The classic markup would have usually sort of had a highlighter to say that something's been done. We've got a quick little tool here where you can actually just highlight something's been done. This is quite valuable if someone's sick one day, and then people can understand where people are at with those particular markups by going through and marking up those tools. Another handy element that people are not always aware of is the dimmer tool. So the dimmer tool function basically puts everything in the background that's part of the printed PDF and just shows up the markup tools. It's quite a handy tool to see what's been marked up on a particular drawing set. We've also got what we refer to as our GP stamps. These are interactive as well. So if you're doing a little sketch, you might just sort of pop in a little title block on something on a blank sheet, and then these are all interactive, so you can sort of describe what they are in relation to full information and start to fill out particular sets of documentation that way for little sketches. We've also got shop drawing stamps as well. So what I recommend to people is to fill out things like the signature and the project number. And then what you can do is also apply to multiple pages. So if you had multiple sheets, you can quickly apply that to multiple sheets, and then you just simply click on those sheets, and these are interactive, and you can actually start placing the individual sheet markups on those individual sheets. So that's really a nice sort of workflow around the tool chest. We spent a lot of time with actually Chinook, who's helped us sort of work through this with the previous distributor, and it's saved a lot of time for our users in relation to markups and being agile and using less paper. The next one that we use a lot of is actually Bluebeam Studio. Now, Bluebeam Studio, I believe you've gone through a lot of sessions previously, so I won't go into that. But if you haven't actually explored Bluebeam Studio, I recommend you do. It's a really valuable collaborative tool. Reach out to your distributor for that. Compare documents is quite a handy tool to use. There's a couple of different ways we can compare these documents. There's one which is compare and one which is overlay. I'll go through compare documents first. So here we've got a preliminary set of documentation and we want to see what's changed between preliminary to tender. So if we go to our batch tools and compare documents, we want to add a document to this. And we want to add another document to this, which is, so that was the preliminary set, and then we'll add the one which is the tender set. Oh, sorry, I went to batch there, so I was meant to go to compare documents, this one here, sorry, apologies for that. And this will create a separate document called diff. You can rename this document if you need to save the document in the future. But as you can see, it's bringing them up both side to side, and it's bringing up all information that's changed in that. So we've got a preliminary and for tender has changed. We've noticed revisions of changes. As we sort of move forward here, we can see that extra detail items have been changed. And then as we go up to here, we can see even more detail around the batten size that's changed. Now, this is quite valuable if you needed to send something to sort of a project manager so they can understand what changes have happened quickly and easily. Or you might just do it as a project leader just to sort of understand what's changed between particular revisions. Not every one of these clouds is actually going to be required. So if you click on one here, this is just talking about time and date stamps. You can just click on the unlock for that one and delete it because it's not relevant. You can start looking at adding comments to these as well. So in here we've got, if we unlock this one, we can look at adding a comment about what that change is. So we know that's a batten size change. And then you can see down here, it's adding those comments around the batten size change. Now, the handy thing about this is you can actually create a summary as well. So if the project lead wants to know a summary of changes, this is a quick and easy way to sort of quickly highlight some changes. This will create another document which tables the changes. So it highlights here. I'll just sort of see if I can zoom into that for people. It highlights a little snapshot of it, and then any comments will be directed down the side there. So if we go through and look for the one that we were changed the comment on, which was the batten change, which is down here, you can see it's literally given us a little snapshot of what that change is, and then we can put in a description of what that change was. So it's a really handy feature to sort of understand some changes. The other way to do different changes as well is what's called overlay pages. The overlay pages is more of a graphical representation. So if we go document and overlay pages this time, it brings up what's automatically open. We can close those and we can add the ones that we want to review. Colors can be changed as well, depending on what's required. And this is a really handy one to see what's changed in a graphical representation. So if we look back up here, we can see that the green we'd chosen was the tender set. So we can see that there's a change to the size of the batten. And then here we can also see in green that there's extra documentation. Now this is quite handy for internal reviews, but also if we're looking at documentation around sort of, if we're looking at say stairs in this particular case, we had a element of the stair where they hadn't really understood what was happening in this particular area. they were looking at the stair in isolation. So you can see here, looking at this stair in isolation without the surrounding walls. So we needed to understand what was going to be the knock-on effect of some of those changes. So by doing a little overlay, we could see what needed to be changed. And so the element of overlay pages, you can use what's called align points. So if you've got a drawing that's come from a different consultant or a shop drawing, it's not always going to be the same scale, and it's not always going to be the same location on the page. So this is where align points comes in handy. So with align points, we can choose another layer, and we want to choose that shop drawing. And the align points is where we can actually choose something that's like a grid reference. It's going to be the same on each of those drawings. And it doesn't matter which scale it is, because these 3 points will actually scale down correctly because we know they're a known dimension. So these are the points here from the shop drawing, which are the grid lines. And this will create a separate document which overlays those. So you can see here on this overlay, they'd actually shifted the stair down a little bit and also changed the angle of the stair. So that was actually going to cause a clash with our existing walls that we'd created on our, well, they weren't existing, they hadn't actually been built yet. So, but what it allowed us to do is say, well, we might have to look at moving these walls down to allow for this stair to go in that location if that's a preferred location. And you can see here how the overlays worked, where these were different scales. This was quite a large drawing sheet, whereas this was a small drawing sheet. But by using all those grid references, it's actually aligned it quickly and easily. Another workflow that's pretty interesting use is 3D PDFs. So if a particular project manager doesn't know how to use Revit or something, they can actually still look at an element in 3D. So here, this is a 3D PDF that's sort of produced through the add-in for Revit and allows you to sort of look at something in 3 dimensions. And also allows you to look at things like marking up tools and also moving things around. So if we were to explore an option of adjusting this screen to a different location, we can move that, and then we can just add a markup about exploring looking at this screen moving to a different location. And you can add lots of little details that may need to be added. So they might say, oh, look, let's look at adding a detail around this particular recess and do that as a small scale markup or detail on our drawing set. I think I'll just go and to the next step now, which is talking about page labels. So page labels allows us to quickly and easily navigate through a set of drawings that may not just be ours, but also a consultant set of drawings. So the consultant set of drawings may come through as just 1, 2, 3, 4, or our drawings produced straight out of Revit might also do that. So this is where it's quite handy to use the page label feature. So we know that the drawing number is something that we want to reference in this particular case. We go to page labels and we want to select by region, and we just do a little box around the region that we want to select. You can add different elements to this if you wanted to add your project number to your drawing number, for example. We want the page range to be the complete set. In this case, it's 29 sheets. And you can see down here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we go OK to that, it'll start to populate these so that we can easily navigate what they are by the sheet number. The next step to that is what's called batch hyperlinking. So with batch hyperlinking, it's only going to be available with an Extreme. So we have a couple of versions of Extreme on Hotdesk that allows us to use this feature. So this is where we use the batch linking tool, and we'll go a new batch. and we want to add the open file in this particular case. And we want to start to generate those hyperlinks based on page label. One little trick we do also is, because you're never really going to sort of want to link straight to the A000 sheet, what we do is actually use a link that will link the project number back to the A00 sheet. Because the project number is going to be on all the drawings, it'll be a handy link to have to go straight back to the cover page. That's going to run, and this will sort of tell you how many sort of links it's created. I think in this case it's about 220 individual links across these sheets. 220 there. If we finish and close, and we'll just see how these sort of hyperlinks are working. So it's highlighted them all in yellow. So if we wanted to now go to a particular layout, say the A130, which is the amenities sheet, and you can see how all these yellow highlights are links that have been created automatically, which allows you to quickly navigate through the different types of drawing sets. So if I wanted to click on this elevation, it'll take me to A131. And then if I wanted to go back to the sheet I was just on, because we've got our referencing correct here, I can just go straight back to A130. If we want to have a look at, say, a particular joinery item, we can click on that joinery item and go straight to that sheet. And this is what I was talking about before, where we've got a project number. So that project number is on all the sheets. And if we just click on that hyperlink, it'll take us straight back to our cover page. So you can see how quickly and easy this navigation can happen in not only in internal sets, but also consultant sets where you may not be as familiar with their drawing sheet numbering and where their references go to. It's quite a handy way to navigate quickly through documentation sets. You may at some stage not want to have all these hyperlinks sort of showing up in yellow in this case, so you can change them to a hyperlink layer, and then you can turn them off to have them not printed. So as an example, if we were to grab all those hyperlinks that we've created and move them all to that layer, which is the hyperlink layer, we can now look at just minimizing this for us. And you can see we can actually just turn all those off if you don't want to see them and have them not to print as well. So that's basically a lot of workflows that we use here at Grey Pucksand. We found it really useful for people to, I'll just sort of see if I can, this one. And I'll just stop presenting now.
Hi, Tim. That was really good, and I think we had some a lot of discussion within the chat. Not so many direct questions as much as people actually showing and talking about similar ways that they're using the program. But we've sort of covered so much good content in there. I was going to just ask a question just based off your batch hyperlinking. Is that something that you've been doing and sending out to clients when you've got a combined set of drawings, or is it something that you tend to use more for internally navigating around documents?
At this stage, it's always been sort of internal sort of understanding of documents and sort of working through to understand, say, a consultant set of documentations or a larger set of our set of documentations, mostly internal at this stage. But I can't see a reason why, if we were to send that sort of information out to people, it would actually help the consultant team navigate a lot quicker. So,
yeah, I've often thought it would be a nice thing to sort of run through before you send it out to a client, but get a bit worried about, sometimes we update documents and the hyperlinks go missing. You have to make sure you go through that process again. But
that's correct. Yes.
Is that something similar, just on the internal external discussion there too? Is the 3D PDF workflow that you run through, is that something that you've actually trialed with using with directly with clients to actually show them, how easily and they can navigate and understand the 3D geometry?
It hasn't actually got a lot of traction, to be honest. We can definitely see the power in it, but it's something that people I think they're sort of not as confident using it at the moment. So, but it's something I still promote because it might just spark something for someone as, oh, look, we can do this. Let's have a look at a different way of moving around a particular model or adjusting a particular markup.
Yeah, good point. We probably just got a chance there for one or two more questions. But David's got a question in the chat there about whether does batch hyperlinking work with other PDF packages or other than Bluebeam Review? So would it work with Adobe or something like that once you've applied them?
I haven't tried that, to be honest. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I might do a sort of test on that in the background and just see how that works.
Yeah, we might be able to get one of our Bluebeam gurus like Shanok or somebody like that to comment on that. He might be aware. Was there a question? I felt like somebody was trying to jump in just a moment ago.
Yeah, there was a couple of questions. Just if Tim has any kind of workflows around updating and keeping the standards around tool chests. I know there's a couple of ways to do that. I think the Golders team showed that last time of their method. Is there something that you guys use for the maintaining?
Yeah, so we're looking at sort of getting this into the deployment and getting that sort of updated more regularly. We're still in the process of just refining that workflow at the moment. So
yeah. So by default, it reads from the user's C drive. So you can either deploy that automatically, that it overwrites any changes they make, or you can repath it.
It's to a central sort of server location.
Yeah, you can repath the user's profile to a central location as well. Yep. No, it's definitely a good future topic. I think of going into a deeper dive around, I guess, maintaining company standards. I think a lot of people are interested in that. There's quite a few questions about that, but yeah, fantastic, really good, and interesting from an engineering background that you guys use it quite, similarly to what we do, just slightly different. You're talking about doors rather than steel beams, but
yeah, that's correct.
yeah, it's the same things apply. No, really, really great. And thanks very much for sharing those workflows.
And it's just sort of really presenting as a company as a whole, rather than people sort of choosing their own fonts, choosing their own colors. Just ensuring we get some consistency across our standards and what we're issuing.
Yep. Great. Thanks very much.
Great job, Tim.
All right. So, yeah, we'll move on to Brett now. Brett's going to share some workflows that they use at Advanced Precast around their costing. So, yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Brett.
Thanks. Wrong screen.
Yep, we got
that. Got the screen now. Can you see that screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thanks, Ben, Locke, and Shan. Tim's definitely set a pretty high bar, so I hope I don't lower it too much for you guys. I've taken a slightly different approach than Tim and not taken out risk of user error with Bluebeam. So I've done a PowerPoint and yeah, so hopefully it goes off without a hitch. Thanks. My name is Brett Foster and I'm the Operations National Business Development Manager for AP. I will start by saying I work for Advanced Precast, not a public speaking company, so apologies in advance. Thanks to the Bug Group for allowing us to present and for everyone for listening to me babble on for a little bit. We're grateful for the opportunity. Hang on. There we go. A little bit about myself. I'm a structural engineer, so don't hold it against me, Tim. I've got 24 years of experience in the precast and structural engineering fraternities in business development, operations, project management, construction management. Straight out of uni, I started as a structural engineer at Rinkovich Consultants and worked there for circa 6 years, and then moved to Advanced Precast, where I'm still employed under various capacities, project coordinator, New South Wales State Manager, where I lived in Sydney for 6 years, then moved back to here, and the Business Development and Operations Manager across nationally and across multiple states at any one time. A little bit about AP. We started in 82 as a post-tensioning and development arm, and then moved into precast concrete. We specialise in design development, documentation, manufacture and erection of precast concrete structures, mostly the high-rise residential and commercial towers. 99, we expanded our operations into New South Wales and ACT. 2005, we moved that into Queensland. Now service Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, Newcastle, Gold Coast, Brisbane and all the surrounding areas, and we currently employ circa 160 people. Moving on to talk briefly what we're here to talk about, how AP uses Bluebeam. It's going to be a high-level overview, so if there's any questions, we can do them either offline or afterwards. Bluebeam for AP has been an absolute game changer. We started utilising Bluebeam about 10 years ago, and we firstly developed our workflows for the different departments that use it, and then we automated our Bluebeam processes and our systems based upon those workflows. So we started with our workflows and then created the processes within Bluebeam to assist in that criteria. We use mainly in the business development, estimating and documentation areas, although it's used in other areas, other facets of the company as well. We set up projects for pricing and Takeoff, which is going to be the major component of what we're going to be talking about today. Also use it for presentation of concepts to clients and consultants and estimators, and also for during the project for collaboration, project control. Presentation is going to be given with that everybody has some sort of level of basic knowledge of Bluebeam, and also familiar with a lot of the functions such as the main workspace, the menu, command, toolbars, the left and right panels, bottom panel, and the markup panel, the profiles, exporting and importing of profiles. And something that Shan taught us very early on is that, like Tim was talking about, we automated and systemised our individual workflows and departments, and use the profiles to be kept on the network and roll out those using special scripts that our IT department has carefully created, so that the profiles are read-only templates and not for individual editing. However, like anything, and Shan had shown us along the way some various ways that you can personalise it in some of the individual tool boxes that don't then infiltrate the templates. We use multiple profiles for different types of markups within the platform, and the profiles are the technique that we use to keep the consistent output. They're all systemised and they're automated, and they require significantly less thinking on how to every time an issue crops up, because once an issue crops up, we then build it into the system if it becomes a repetitious part of our workflow. It ensures that the end user can get that same consistent result no matter which team member works on that markup. We work with two main profiles, and which one will depend on whether we're using plans or elevations to mark up on. And the two main profiles that we use are the plan profile, which we use the perimeter measurement tool or the polyline to represent precast elements. We have user-defined columns, layers, toolboxes, tool sets to define the various precast types, the details, the various pricing parameters of the different precast elements. We use colouring to define other different attributes of the elements for differentiation. Similarly, with the elevation profile, we use the area measurement tool, and again, they've got a series of user-defined properties to define the various different attributes of the precast elements. Just in a bit more detail, shows some of the toolboxes, tools that we've got within our tool chest, plan profile showing the polyline or the perimeter measurement tool that we represent the precast elements with. Colouring will differentiate the different properties of the precast elements, such as thickness, etc., etc. The precast type will define the precast type of elements, such as columns, internal balconies, and the like. And then the label, again, differentiates some of the geometrical properties of the elements that we are marking up in. Similarly with the elevation, we use the area measurement tool, and we use, again, different colours to differentiate the precast properties, the labels, and we use the labels and the precast types and the labels. Some various types of our tool chest, just some views. As we said, all of our elevation and plan profiles come with the individualised tool sets and tools, and then they're all customised to the requirements of the markup. We use layers. They're all automated templates, and they're pre-filled out, built-in and custom columns for use in our Takeoff as we move down the track. Custom columns or user-defined columns, which is really the lifeblood of our system and allows us to convert a markup into a full-blown takeoff at the end of it. A little bit more outside the Bluebeam platform than most others use it in general form. We use both built-in and custom columns for different types of the markups, and that mix of built-in and custom differs with each of the profiles we use for the various different parameters that we apply to those markups. They're accessed and adjusted via the markups and the properties tab. For the built-in columns, we use items such as colour, subject, page index and comments. And for the custom columns, we define items such as geometry, precast details, the specific precast requirements, and some of the specific precast items that are built in within those tools. For each of the custom columns, we use a mix of text, numbers, as well as formula. For example, for calculating the precast weight, we use the precast geometry and multiply it by the concrete density to produce the precast weight. A little bit more detail, what we'd see in our markups list, and then in our properties tab, which again is pretty much formulated for the particular individual profile. So user-defined layers, as I said, we use layers to enable us to define the markups for the different uses. We use crane radiuses, panel weights, panel ticks, notes, comments. The actual panels are the precast elements are all have layers attached to them. Some of the comments that we put on the drawings are used for instructions to the AP team, or have costing data on them, and they're not shown on the end externally issued drawing. Hence, using layers allows us to put these internal instructions onto the page, but allows them to be turned off when we're issuing them, and controls everything. So utilising layers allows us to control what is going to be issued internally and what's going to be issued externally. So there's a lot of control in doing it with layers, used in a very similar way that they are in CAD. They can be turned off, on, isolated, etc., etc. You can also obviously lock your layers, and can also just direct traffic into what happens when you print the layer, print the tool, and or export that particular element that you're marking up with. We use parent and children layers to allow the various layers to be grouped. It allows flexibility in the markup, and the key to utilising layers in the way that in our workflows is to begin with the end in mind, so that you create and systemise the layer, and then you work at the beginning of the markup to allow what flexibility you're going to need, and what you're going to show and what you're not going to show at the end output. We use in our profiles, tool chest, tool sets. They've all got predetermined layers. Again, allows full flexibility and consistency between the different team members that might mark up something. And just showing, one of our tool sets with the layer coming out. So plan profile versus elevation profile. The quality of the documentation, so the consultant's documentation, is generally what we mark up on, and the quality of either the elevations or plans will generally determine which set of drawings we're going to use to mark up on. Marking up in plan profile provides a picture representation of our scope of works in plan. So all of our plans are clearly identify what is precast, what's not precast, for costing purpose and contractual purposes. Everything we've got within the profile, we use tailored tool chests to allow simple methods to choose a predefined precast element. In this particular case, it's a perimeter tool, and take that from the tool set into the markup. We do that in two different ways, and there's pros and cons to to either one. The first one is properties mode, which will create a new markup. So when you're grabbing the tool in the properties mode, you pull in the markup, and you've got the same visual properties of the tool, but you've got a new markup, so you can do with it what you want. So the colour, shape and size still stay the same, but you can tailor it to whatever the markup you're doing. Whereas the drawing mode creates an exact copy of that tool. So very big differentiation there. And that's just some examples of what one of our plan markups would look like, and a little bit more detail. So colouring and labelling and notes to defining our exact scope of works. Likewise, in the elevation, we'd use the elevation where the elevation set of drawings becomes the most prevalent for us to be defining our scope of works contractually to the client, and marking up in the elevation again provides the alternative to the plan, pictorial representation to reflect our scope of works, and when we're using elevations for the markups, again, specific tool chests allow simple method to just grab and place onto the markup. Like when marking up on the plan, we're using the two different methods, even with the area measurement tool, and there's pros and cons for those. the properties mode and the drawing mode, and just a visual representation of what our elevations come out like to define our scope. Bit of a blow up there. So exporting our markups. So once we've finished with our plan or elevation markups, we will then export the data out. So grabbing all the information within the markup will then be exported, and we export them onto into the CSV format. We utilise a systemised configuration for exporting the data. We access that via the load configuration pop-up box that appears in your markup summary when you export, and utilising this controls what columns and in what order are going to be exported to our CSV. We then capture that data onto the CSV summary, and just a quick blow up of what that CSV output actually looks like. Creating our costing takeoff sheet. So we export our CSV data from the markup into an Excel, and that enables the markup data to convert directly to a custom precast costing takeoff sheet. We use a series of macros to take the CSV and convert it into the formats that we require, along with pivot tables, power query techniques, and that creates meaningful data that can be used for the pricing of the project. Utilising these allow control what is to be utilised and what's not going to be utilised for pricing purposes. We output specific data and output onto our takeoff sheet for pricing purposes, for quantities, for level by level counts, etc., etc. And that is a partial example of one of our takeoff sheets, and also for the pivot tables that we can create for the different purposes, such as level by level counts, the data that goes into our then costing sheet, and then convert that straight to a costing platform spreadsheet that we use from that point on. So that concludes my presentation. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you listening to me babble on for a little bit. We're once again grateful to the BUG group for the opportunity to speak, and I think there'll be questions at the end of the session. So I'll now hand over to Ben, Lachlan, Shan or Megan.
Thanks, Brett. You can see it's a very powerful tool there, and I think we're probably slightly limited on time for questions. I just had one little one I thought I might ask before we moved on to the XCon discussion, and then we might have a chance to address a couple at the end. But I just was wondering, from a point of view of how compatible your method is for when you get updates of a drawing. So if your consultant reissues a drawing with a change.
Yeah, we generally are able to. Sorry, just give me a sec. We generally just basically take. We recreate. So we create a specific set of drawings, whether it be elevations. So if your drawing's S1 to S20, we'll recreate that on the next version over, and then we just do a control. Yeah, you do the import export of your full markups. So you can do Control Alt F2 F3 or Control F2 F3. Shen can probably elaborate on that, and then we import that over. We identify any changes, and then we make any adjustments, and then that we can just either recreate the takeoff sheet and then repump that into the costing, or we will just adjust. If it's only minor changes, then we'll just adjust the costing by hand from that point.
Yeah, sounds like the trick might be for the consultants to make sure you don't shift your elevations around on the page. So the markups land in the right spot, right?
Yeah. We also put reference points. You know, we put ground zero on each one of the plans or elevations, so that we've got a reference point if that does happen.
So is this mostly focused as a sort of tendering? It's sort of pre-award. You're obviously doing shop drawings once you've got the contract, but it's more around the pricing, this upfront pricing. So it's more of a quick kind of workflow to get more accuracy at that early stage. Is that kind of, that's the way I'm reading it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all of what we're sort of referring to now would be through the tender process up to contract award. We also create contract sets of drawings, so the markups we present at tender time will be what we put into the contract, generally speaking, so that we've got a defined scope of works to make sure that things are set in concrete, if you like. And then the documentation team, the details will use the CAD and Revit and all the other different methods to document the job from that point, but coordinators will generally use that for workflows, RFIs, and all those sort of workflows with the consultants and the clients. Yeah,
that's great. No, really interesting. And thanks very much for sharing. I know there's a lot of IP in that workflow. Maybe for some people who haven't seen those custom columns and that kind of workflow, maybe a lot to sort of understand, but definitely a lot of use cases for that, for costing, but also for, engineering type tasks, even architecture. It's very, very powerful, having that visual ability to mark up and then convert that to data. It's a really interesting workflow that you've shown there. So definitely one to dive into for people.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of leveraging from the base, Bluebeam model, if you like, and then you can extract that data into multiple different techniques and methods and spreadsheets and PDFs at the end, like Tim showed, that can be hyperlinked and all those sort of things. So yeah, absolutely massive, powerful tool.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much for sharing.
No dramas.
All right, we'll move on to Megan. Are you ready to jump in, Megan?
Hello, yes, I'm here. Did you want me to share my screen? Is that easier?
Yeah, if you've got something to show up, feel free to go ahead.
Great. I've just requested control. I'm not sure who will. Yep. Oh, not accepted. Just one moment.
You might not need to request control, Megan. Just hit the share on your screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, got that now.
Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I'm not sure. I don't think I've met all of you yet, but I'm Megan Johnston. I'm the Regional Marketing Manager for APAC at Bluebeam, and I work with Chanel Halliday, which I'm sure all of you know a lot better than me. I'm just here to share a few, some information on XCon Anywhere, which is sort of an iteration from our previous XCons. The last one we had was in 2019. Some of you might have actually been able to attend in the US. And then in 2020, due to the pandemic, we weren't able to run any conference. But this year we've decided to pivot to a virtual model, which is really great for all of us who are down in Australia, and we can watch on demand. So the actual event dates are on the 27th to the 28th to the 29th in the US, but that's the 29th to the 30th for us in Australia. The website there is bluebeamextreme.com. Registration's open. There's pricing options for free and paid. So the free option is you can join and just view the keynote sessions, but for $99 US, you can watch the full conference, and there's lots of sessions there. But wait, BUG members do get a discount. So I'll share that with you in a minute. I don't think Deepak's with us today, but he will be speaking on generating accurate bids using Bluebeam Review. You can see the time is not so Australia friendly, but if you are really keen, you can watch live at 4:30. But if you register for the event, you'll be able to watch all sessions in your own time. And then Ben Burns as well is another one, a fellow Aussie that will be presenting 2 sessions at XCon, 3 creative workflows for your schematic design toolbox, and also Bluebeam Review and Autodesk Revit workflows. So to access your discount, if you're interested in joining the full conference, you just need to have joined a minimum of 1 bug meeting in the last 3 years. So if you're here today, you instantly qualify. And you just need to use the email address that you have used to register for your bug meeting as well, because we'll just cross-check those. So what you'll get for your discount is the 50% off, and you just need to use the unique code BUGMEL21 when you get to the order summary page as you check out. Yeah, so it's a really great session. It's going across 2 days, lots and lots of sessions, including messages from our CEO and our heads of product on the future of Bluebeam and Review. So if you have any questions at all, please reach out to myself or Shanok as well. But yeah, hopefully you can come along and hear from some great speakers. That's it from me.
Great, thanks a lot, Megan. That's it's really interesting, and it's not just there's some broader topics in there as well. But yeah, definitely check out the website to see the sessions, and there is some sessions you can jump into for free as well. So yeah, we'll just look to close out. We're pretty much on time. So thanks once again to all the speakers, particularly Tim and Brett. Some really interesting topics and a little bit different from what we've seen before. So really appreciate those guys for putting the effort in. I know it's you know, it's not easy in this virtual environment. Some people maybe it's a bit easier, but I definitely find it hard sometimes, you know, getting through that content. But yeah, definitely that's the key to these sessions. So yeah, we're definitely keen on feedback, and definitely reach out to us if you've got anything that you think we should talk about, or particularly if you're interested in speaking, or you know someone we should approach about speaking. That's the hardest part about organising these sessions, is getting it together. But we seem to keep finding people, so that's great. We're looking at sort of early December, so tentatively lock in that sort of 14th of December for the next one. Who knows what we'll be doing there? Maybe there's a chance that we could have some sort of in-person, and we're sort of still weighing up those options, but hasn't been very lucky this year. But keep an eye out on the social media for where we end up with that. But likely it'll at least be an online session, and maybe some sort of meetup afterwards if we can wrangle that. So yeah, get in touch with us via the email, or better yet, the LinkedIn group is the way to go. If you haven't joined that already, always lots of updates through that. And yeah, keep an eye out on the YouTube channel as well. As I said, all the major bugs are up on there, so you can catch up on Sydney one, which is only a couple of weeks ago. So that one's already uploaded, and ours for this session will be uploaded in a couple of weeks. Yeah, check out the other global bugs as well. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Really great to see a lot of people, and once again, thanks to all the speakers. And don't forget to check out that XCon conference and use that code if you're needing it. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Brett. That was great. Really
Yeah,
enjoyed
great
that.
work. Yeah, very good.
It's good to see lots